Welcome to another episode of the Music PRODcast, and today I have my co-host Owen Varagos joining me.
Just me today, just me.
It's just us.
I guess we got Monroe as always.
And this week we are going to just dump all of the knowledge that we have ever accumulated. We're going over pretty much the last year of music industry arts, the program that we've been in, and we're going to condense all of the stuff that we've learned, all of the tips that we've learned through doing this for a year into one episode.
And the reason we're doing this, I guess the hidden reason behind this is because, we don't think you should have to pay tuition for this. Due to the strike, we're just, screw the $6,000. We're going to give it to you right here.
We're knowledge activists right now.
No, we're kidding, but still, the strike is still on.
Yeah, we're going to go over a couple topics. We're going over some history of famous producers, the process of how you get from writing a song all the way to distributing a song. We're also going to talk about the different aspects of music.
Don't let her go in. She'll go right on there. You might want to get her off.
We're also going to be talking about just some tips, some general tips, stuff that we've learned over the past year. So
yeah, let's do it.
We're going to start with a guy named Alan Lomax. Do you remember that name from class?
Muddy Waters guy?
Yeah. Back in the 1930s, he traveled around America recording songs for the American Song Archive.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest artists that he recorded was Muddy Waters in 1941.
Yeah, so he's known for kind of almost being like a field reporter for music.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like he kind of went out into the world before there was much access, I guess, to that kind of equipment and just kind of captured them performing it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So really raw beginnings.
Yep. And then in the 1950s, Les Paul, the inventor of the guitar, it's named after him, was also a very influential producer. He was the pioneer of multi-track recordings. Mm-hmm. He would record himself playing guitar and then play it back and play over it again and again, sort of just stacking sound on top of sound like we do today.
Which is what songs are now. No matter how inventive or innovative or whatever that was, breaking edge at the time, he still got backlash of some people being like, he's fooling us or he's tricking us because everyone knows it sounds better the more layers you add and stuff.
It was definitely different. Before then, recording was just capturing a performance, one take.
Yeah.
Usually one mic.
Yeah.
And they would have to balance all the levels of instruments by either moving them farther away or closer to the microphone.
The fader was just you getting closer or farther.
Yeah.
I was like, too much drums? All right, push them back.
Also in the 1950s and 60s, there was a guy named Owen Bradley on the countryside who was sort of responsible for the Nashville sound. He combined hillbilly music and pop music, which is sort of the country music that we know today, with a certain set of instruments like the banjo, acoustic guitar, slide guitar as well. And he sort of made hillbilly music, mainstream.
Which he got flack for as well, because people say he kind of took away some of the true essence of country, but in all honesty, he's the reason people probably still talk about a lot of those artists and stuff like that.
Yeah, he worked with...
I don't know too much of... Who some of the artists?
Hank Williams.
Oh, okay.
From the 1950s. Patsy Cline as well in the 60s.
Okay.
Those were two of the biggest names that he's worked with.
Yeah, I recognize. Obviously.
Yeah. As well, Phil Spector was also around in the 60s. He's responsible for the wall of sound, which is pretty much common practice now with the pop genre.
Also was notorious for keeping control of his talent in the studio with guns.
Yeah.
He had some showdowns with, Johnny Ramone, I think, John Lennon.
As well, we could also talk about Mutt Lange in the 80s. He's more recent. He is a hit maker and a perfectionist, definitely. He is known for making artists do things over and over again until it's exactly how he wants it to be. He's worked with like a whole list of artists, probably most notably AC/DC and Highway to Hell, that was released in 1979. He's also worked with Def Leppard, Maroon 5, Nickelback.
Like just big, powerful songs. Like when I think of wall of sound, that's what I think of. When I think of Phil Spector, I think of wall of reverb.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. He also
Personally.
produced Shania Twain in 1999, his now ex-wife, producing Man, I Feel Like a Woman. And you can definitely hear in that song the influence of, it sounds like a rock, like AC/DC track, but
the guitar is
country
almost
song.
like a Satisfaction fuzz guitar tone.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
that's
it
true.
has that similar kind of feel to it.
The big producer today, I definitely say, is Rick Rubin. From
Today
the
and back then, yeah.
From the 1980s on, he has worked with everybody and everyone. He's a rock and roll guru, the co-founder of Def Jam Records. I'd say he is one of those guys that professionals, that big artists just get to come in and take a listen to their music and give his opinion. The big thing that he does is just tell you what's good and what's not.
To me, he's like, I guess the producer's always kind of like a movie director, but he's really like a movie director. Like he just kind of is overwatching it. But he knows what's good, and he's like known as the, what's it called? He strips things away. It'll come to us, but like he's known for like stripping back songs and just like making things sound very raw.
One of the songs that we listened to in class was the Beastie Boys. You've Got to Fight for Your Right, and you can tell everything is super dry. I have a list of all the artists that he's worked with.
The Run DMC Aerosmith Walk This Way collab, I think he was a part of.
Yep. Beastie Boys, Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Avett Brothers.
Oh yeah,
Jay-Z,
he did all like Blood Sugar Sex Magic, right?
Kanye West, Justin Timberlake, Shakira, Ed Sheeran, Linkin Park, Slipknot, System of a Down, Lana Del Rey, Dixie Chicks. And those are the big names when it comes to producers. So we're going to jump into a musical break, and every song's just going to be a recommendation from either Owen and I. My song that I think you should take a listen to is Make a Little by Midland. It's from their September 22nd release On the Rocks.
It's a hard living, make a little more.
We're going to talk about sort of the process of taking a song from the writing process all the way to distribution. Starting off with the writing process, there's sometimes an in-house writer for a record label, a person that's responsible for writing hit songs and then giving them to popular artists. But there's also a thing called a self-contained artist, an artist that writes their own music and then performs their own music. Everything's self-contained. And once a song's written or an album's written, then it moves on to production. And I think something that not a lot of people know is what a record label actually does. Could you give like a summary of that?
Record labels do all sort of different things, but they like fund a lot of your costs as far as like making the record, touring, like, and they also take money from that as well, depending on your deal, like a 360 deal where they're taking everything from the top of your whole, the traditional sense. All right. Like, let's say whatever, like, you know, the whole, I'll break out the term artist development, you know, that was once like a really relevant thing, was like discovering talent and then nurturing that talent to become a star, you know, and that was like the old school way of how to do it, you know, like.
As like a summary, I'd say a record label pays for the production and then also gets a piece of anything that's sold from selling actual records.
But that model's really changed now.
Yeah.
That model is not the same. Like now, like they think that because, this is in all cases, but big record labels, they assume because they're distributing and paying for your music that it in turn creates all your other revenues. So they take from all your other revenue as well.
Yeah, when someone says, I've been signed, they can either mean two things, like a record label or a record deal or a 360 deal, like what you were talking about. With a record deal, they give you a certain amount of money to live off of and create an album for them, a record. Then with a 360 deal, they also give you an advance, but they also take a piece of everything that you make money on, from touring, merchandise, movies, TV, and
Ads.
movie appearances, advertising,
And in turn, that might put you in a better position because they'll care more about all that other stuff as well. So like, I don't know, we're in a music industry program, but we haven't been fully introduced to all that mess in the real world yet. So, I only know from like outside perspective.
Mm-hmm. So that advance that you get, you should probably explain what an advance is. You get a certain amount of money, maybe like, okay, say you're really big. You get $1 million record deal. Pretty much what that means is they will give you $1 million to live off of, to spend however you want, but you also have to make an album with it. And all of that money is an advance against royalties, is what it's called. All that money you're pretty much borrowing from the record label, and then as soon as you release the song and it starts selling and making money, it's slowly, you pay back what you've earned. At
But
least
how do they make?
There's no interest.
They gotta make money.
Yeah, they make money off the record as well. Actually, I have a percentage split down, a breakdown.
Oh, off sales.
Yeah, so you sell a CD, let's say, back in the olden days. The artist will get 6.6% automatically. The producer gets around 2.2%. The songwriters get 2.2% as well. And then here's all the big pieces of the pie. The distributor gets 22%. The manufacturer gets 5%. Retailer gets 30%. So the store that sells it gets 30%. And then the record label also gets 30%.
That's twisted.
Yeah, the artist makes 6.6. It makes sense because the record label is paying for the entire album, but there's a balance.
Because at one point that was necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because you needed the. Again, like I don't know, I feel like I'm just going on the spiel, like because once you needed them, but like that's the thing. Like one time that made sense because like that model made sense because it was like, yeah, we need your studio, we need your producer, we need your mixer, we need your marketing. But that's definitely like not the same anymore.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you.
Sure.
When someone refers to someone as indie, what does that mean? What's your best definition of an indie artist?
I think the most important thing about being indie is creative freedom,
mm-hmm.
and financial freedom, as far as like you can leave like.
They're almost like two different types of indie.
I would just say full creative control. There's like I don't care about your business.
There's unsigned indie, and then there's also signed indie.
Yeah.
There can be an indie record label, which is just a record label that's independent from the really big record labels. Yeah. Sony, Warner Brothers, Capitol is a big one that's signed. Universal. Yeah, those are the big ones. And then if you're not underneath any of those ones, because those record labels also own tons of smaller record labels. Pretty much all of them. Did you have a recommendation?
My recommendation would be Division, which is like Toronto group, made up of singer Daniel Daly and producer 1985. They're part of like Drake's OVO label. Off of their latest release, one of the songs I've liked a lot is called POV. It has a really cool sample of Maxwell's Fortunate. Yeah, that'd be one of my recommendations.
Moving on to making good songs. We're going to talk
about that.
Song form and what you need. What are some key elements in making a good song? So there are lots of different forms to songs. Most commonly standard form with your intro, your verse, your chorus, your bridge, all that stuff. One of the things that Mo Berg said about an intro that I always really liked was when you're making an intro, make it like you're telling a story about you going to a party, but then you get mugged on the way to that party. That's what the intro should be. It should be getting mugged on the way to a party. You have to make...
So that's all your intros now?
an intro memorable, yeah.
You should kind of introduce like what the song is going to be like without kind of like spoiling it or something. But intros can be anything too. Like I still like the classic, like just let the riff play once and then the band come in, whatever, you know, let the lead sound start and then the beat drops, whatever, you know, like there's, you know, simplicity in an intro too.
Then you've got your verse, which is low. You tell this like a bit of the story. Then you have the pre-chorus, which climbs. The chorus, biggest part, it's the payoff, the theme, the title usually of the song is in the chorus. And then you also have different types of song forms, like the AABA song form. It has no verses, no choruses, just has an A section, which has the theme. Then it also has a B section, which is just slightly different. And they're not bigger or more important than the other. They're just different.
It's just like the B is just like a break from the A section.
Yeah. It seems like a super weird foreign song structure, but there are actually a lot of pop songs written in this sort of style. Probably the biggest one that I know is Wake Me Up When September Ends by Green Day.
Hey Jude.
Yep, that's a big one as well. But you also have your A-B song structure, like Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones. You have your A section, a hook, theme. B section is sort of like just something different again, and they just go back and forth. How would you define a hook?
The thing that lets you hear the song after it stops playing.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The memorable part. Doesn't have to be words.
It can be anything.
And a lot of times it's just noises, like Song 2 by Blur.
It can be anything. It's the thing that when you're, what's the example?
When you're in the shower.
No.
And
No, there's a better example. It's like, oh yeah, when someone has a gun to your, to your mother's head.
And you have to sing a song that they'll recognize. What part of the song do you sing?
Yeah, that's it. But hook is also not the coolest part of the song. Because like there's always that example, like the one that kept being brought up was I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Because like the hook of that song is technically that part, because that's the chorus, I think. In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. And that took me a second. And then, but everyone says the most memorable part is the doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, the drum fill. Yep.
You know? So if you were to say that song, if I was in that scenario that I was just saying about the gun to the head and stuff, I'd do the doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. But I don't know, would you really? Because like someone might just be like, that could be like, dun, dun.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know that song.
It's just like a disco song. If I was a better singer, you would know.
One of the songs that I've just recently learned about that I'm really liking is Like Gold by Vance Joy. It's brand new. Vance Joy is definitely pop, very folky.
Closing my eyes, remember how we were like gold when you see me.
We're also going to dive into copyright, which sounds super boring, but we'll try and condense it for you here. Copyright is basically the right to copy something. If you have the copyright to something, if you have the copyright to your own song, you are the only person that has the right to copy your song. There are 4 different categories that you can make money from.
Syncing rights.
Performance rights is if you wrote the song, if you made either the music or the lyrics, or you were there in the room while that happened and you contributed to it, you're a songwriter. And if that song gets played on radio or TV, you get paid for it by SOCAN. But if it gets played in the States, it's collected by CSAC, BMI, and ASCAP. One of those 3. Are you on SOCAN? Are you registered? No. I think I might actually be. Along with performance rights, there's also mechanical rights, which we talked about in the last section a bit.
Was that recording?
That's record sales. For a songwriter gets that 2.2% or whatever we said it was every time their song gets sold. There are also sync rights, which is for movies. That's pretty much a one-time fee usually for a movie to use your song.
Depending on how much they play it. Because in the new movie Happy Death Day, 50 Cent's in the club.
Yep.
I know she wakes up to every morning. And that's in that movie, she wakes up like constantly. He probably got a lot of money for that.
Yeah, you get paid Usually, however much time, however many seconds your song is played, is synced to the picture, that's how much money you get. And then there are also neighboring rights for people who have played on the album but are not the main artist. So they're like performing rights. You collect them every time it's played on the radio or TV, but you get a lot less money, but you still get money if you played, let's say, guitar on it, on a Kesha song, for example.
You always got the best examples. That's why there's certain famous producers. I'm trying to think of an example, but like they'll play like just tambourine on every song just so they have some performance rights.
Yeah, a little loophole there.
Yeah, there's ways to get in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you have one more song recommendation?
Oh yeah, like artist recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let me get the song up too. It was I don't want to pronounce her last name wrong. I think it's Snow Allegra. Yeah, she's an LA-based artist. Came out 2017, I think April maybe. I'm probably wrong there, but called Feels, and it's like super like kind of hypnotic vocals and like super smooth production, kind of jazzy, really old school kind of style vocals, and the production is mostly handled by No ID, who recently was known for doing.
Dude, I have no idea who that guy is.
One dad joke to go.
Yeah.
All right, good one.
Yep, one down.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I guess the song I'd recommend is Sometimes, which features Logic, and it's really cool. It has cool drums, a really cool jazzy bass line to it, and very minimal production, which is a common theme on the album. Kind of lets her voice be the star, and yeah, check it out. Snow Allegra. Feels.
Don't be dumb. Bringing it back with the murderous flow, and I've been wondering anybody know.
Yeah, we're gonna finish the show with some tips, just basic, general stuff that I wish I knew when I first got into music industry arts. I'll go through some of mine, give Owen some time to think, because I just sprung this on him. The first thing I think is spend the money. It'll be worth it at whatever level you're thinking of. If you want a world-class album, you have to pay for a world-class recording studio. It's super hard to do it in your basement. I've noticed that when I do stuff at home and then when I do stuff at school.
What's world class though?
Yeah, that's true.
But let's just take what you're saying to a smaller scale. So when you first said like spend the money, I thought you meant like even just on this stuff, like what we have on the table.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
what I got on my
That is
what I have
what
in
I
my
mean as well.
hands. Even for that, like, you know, you just invest in like good gear, I guess.
The bar for, like you were saying, professional has been lowered a whole lot in price range, and that makes professional recording equipment a lot easier to get to.
What made me say what's world class is because I think there's different expectations for, and you're right. I think you need to invest money to like not make anything that's cool because, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
You know, you don't, what, you know.
Yeah, like George calls himself a basement producer, right?
Bedroom.
Bedroom producer. Bedroom
I
artist.
noticed that his stuff has been labeled bedroom pop.
Yeah, bedroom pop. And that sounds great.
It's
I love
fitting,
it.
super
Yeah.
fitting. And so yeah, world class. And there's music that's literally like there's like lo-fi is a genre. Like making low fidelity music is a genre. I guess investing money, like whether it comes to just being able to do something professionally, invest money. That's the main thing. Professionally, invest money. Like these laptops, not expensive. You know, I bought an expensive hard drive. You did too. You know, all this stuff is like, it's money, but it's investments at the end of the day. So yeah.
When it comes to recording, something that I never did before I came to MIA and something I do all the time, always after.
Sends.
Sends is one. But taking multiple takes of something and then choosing the best parts. Comping. Yeah, that's super important. Even the best players make mistakes. So it's very difficult to get a 100% perfect take. And it's a lot easier with comping.
Are these MIA tips just for recording?
That's a lot of the stuff that I've done. So those are a
I'll
lot
come
of
in
the
with
tips.
a more broad tip.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's what I
comping
was
is a
hoping
huge
for.
thing that kind of opened my eyes up. It's still natural, and like comping is like makes so much sense, and like it's super helpful.
And the last big tip I have is focus on keeping your song interesting, because if your song doesn't go anywhere, if the arrangement doesn't go up in dynamics and down in dynamics, and if it doesn't change, it can still be a boring song. Like when we listen to On the Loose by Niall Horan with Red or Green, it's a professionally recorded song, probably worth a whole lot of money. But if the arrangement isn't there, then it can still be a boring, quote unquote, bad song.
A more broad tip is like just be very well rounded, and as I don't know, it's more objective as you can, to whatever you're working on. Like understand that it's just kind of like for the better, not necessarily like the way you want it.
Mm-hmm. Be flexible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like just be flexible and like everything, whether it's your ideas or your talents or whatever, like just be able to be flexible and workable. I realized that's been the most changing thing to me is like, I kind of thought when I started like, oh, I really have to find what I do well and just like stick to that. But that is never how it will be. So never think like you're, trying to find what I'm going to do forever, what's going to be the best for me or what will make me happy. Because like,
it's going to change.
Yeah, just do what makes you happy and then you'll be doing it.
Yep.
You know, I don't know. Like even this podcast, like it's been a lot of fun. So like, and it was never something I had planned out doing. Like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. You know, we had talked about it last year and stuff, but it was never something like on my goal list or something I thought I would leave the program saying I did. Yeah. But now it is, and it's cool. Like I've just been kind of having fun with it. So, and my tip that goes with that is also like be prepared to do lots of different things. Be interested in all. You don't have to be interested in all of it, but be willing to like, you know, be excited to learn lots of different things.
Yeah, one tip that you reminded me of that I think's the biggest thing is if you are fun and good to work with, you're going to be able to find work. I mean, you have to be good at what you do.
You don't have to be fun to be around, just like easy to be around.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that's
easy,
the key.
yep.
Easy to be around.
Yep.
Even if you're quiet or whatever, like it doesn't matter. Like just be easy going, like in general. Like no one wants bad vibes in general. So like when you're in creative process, like just being able to communicate, like that's something you kind of learn over time, but being able to communicate in a creative atmosphere.
Yeah, I'd say that's the biggest thing that you should know. You might not know anything about copyright like Owen, and you might have only done recording like me, but you know, just be a good person, I guess. So,
be a good person.
Yep.
That's the moral.
Yep. That's the only thing, well, if anything, that you've learned from this podcast, from this episode, just be a good person. And that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Peace out, everyone. Have a good week. Enjoy the weekend.